Chapter 17. The Ravens. Dennis had not spoken to Shady Trevor for over a year. He was not looking forward to it. The last time he had used a tip-off from Shady Trevor, the resulting news story had landed one of Trevor's nephews with a hefty fine. Dennis had not dared approach him since. This was important. This was for Harry Potter. This was for Colin. Dennis checked up and down Diagon Alley, while he stood on the corner pretending to read a newspaper article. It was early evening, and there was hardly anyone around. He looked at his paper, in case anybody asked him what he was reading. The article was Ginny's in-depth interview with new Holyhead Harpies captain, Llynos Pritchard. Llynos had captained the Hufflepuff Quidditch team to a string of Hogwarts Quidditch Cup wins. She was the youngest captain the Harpies had ever had. He had read the article earlier. Ginny Potter had done a good job. It was actually interesting. He winked at Ginny's picture. "Here goes, Ginny. Wish me luck," he murmured as he stashed the paper in his cloak and ducked around the corner into Knockturn Alley. With the hand he had used to put away the paper, he drew out a small phial of potion. This was one of his potions, one he had invented. It was new, and had been slightly tested, but no more than that. With a swift peek over his shoulder, he swallowed the measured dose. The potion had a vaguely cheesy taste. Within seconds, that sensation spread through his body again. It was halfway between a glow and a chill. Whatever it's going to do, it's done it, he muttered to himself. What it had done, in that one last rushed test, was what it had been designed to do all along. To others, it made him look unrecognised and unimportant. It was perfect for situations where you did not want invisibility because you needed to interact with people, but on the other hand, you did not want anyone else to remember having seen you. It still lacked a suitably catchy name. Perhaps he'd have a word with George Weasley. George was brilliant at snappy names. On the other hand, George would want to sell it in the shop. Under the counter, of course, but still. Dennis did not relish the idea of how difficult it could make his job, as a reporter, if others got it. What could hide him from snoops could hide them from his snooping. Maybe he would give George a miss and name it himself. Something using the word snoop. Snoop soup? No, that was terrible. By this time, he had reached the black, heavy door of the Ravens Coffee Club. He knocked. 3 knocks, a gap of 2 knocks' length, and a final single knock. For several seconds, nothing happened. "Yeah," came a voice from behind the door. A tiny hatch slid open. Nothing was visible through it. "Hugin and Moonin," Dennis whispered into it. After another pause, there came the sound of a large bolt being drawn back. The door opened enough for him to slip inside, which he did. The interior of the Ravens was no darker or more disreputable in appearance than, say, the Leaky Cauldron. For a coffee club, there was a distinct lack of the glorious smell of freshly ground coffee. Cheap spirits, stale sweat and old tobacco pipe were there, along with high notes of urinal cake and an undertone of nervous indigestion. Not a hint of coffee, though. None of the varied and unsavoury clientele or staff looked at him as he unhurriedly made his way towards the tables at the back. That was a good sign. His perfunctory test had been to take a couple of drops and walk past his editor at lunchtime. He knew his editor wanted to collar him about a late article. She had failed to notice Dennis walk right past her desk. By his calculations, Dennis had this time taken enough to comfortably last 40 minutes or more. His ability to calculate was pretty good, considering wizards never noticeably touched the 3 R's once they got to Hogwarts. On the other hand, potions notoriously defied logic when it came to dosages. This was doubly true when they contained traces of antirrhinum, or creme fraiche, as this potion did. But it allowed for that, as far as he could remember. Dennis's stomach did a faltering acrobatic routine. There was Shady Trevor, sitting, appropriately enough, in a shady corner. Dennis sat on the corner bench and slid into position, an arm's length from Trevor, and at right angles to him. He didn't even look up. "Whatcha, Trev?" he mumbled.
"Who the—"
"Ah, it's you.
"Where did you come from?"
Trevor responded. Dennis was delighted that his potion was not so strong it prevented people conversing with him when he addressed them directly. Yet Trevor had not noticed him sitting so close. It was a small delight, surrounded by a huge morass of trepidation. "Look, Trev," he said, "about your nephew."
"Second cousin, actually,"
Trevor corrected him.
"Not to worry your pretty little head about it, Dennis. He always was a careless toe rag. Maybe it'll learn him a lesson."
"I'm relieved, Trev," he sighed. "Hate to think I'd given you any grief."
"Of course you would. You ain't stupid. And I promise you, you'd know by now,"
Trev chuckled. Dennis tried to chuckle in reply, but it came out as a nervous titter. Trevor fixed him with a bloodshot eye.
"So, how can I help you, me lad? And more important, how can you help me in return, so to speak?"
Dennis discreetly passed him a slip of paper. Trevor took it and read the list of names on it. Then his wand appeared as if from nowhere. The paper caught fire, and he dropped it into the heavy glass ashtray. Trevor sat back in his seat for a few moments. He was scowling. He leaned forward and uncomfortably close to Dennis.
"Some serious faces on that list, my lad," he whispered. "What do you want with them?"
"Oh, just wondering where they are, what they're doing, whether they're seeing each other for bridge evenings and the like," Dennis said nonchalantly, but quietly. Trevor turned up his scowl a few more notches.
"What are you up to, kid? Don't go messing with this lot, I tell you. Green light wouldn't suit you, if you know what I mean."
Dennis knew exactly what Trevor meant. Green light was famously associated with the killing curse of Ada Kedavra. "This isn't for an article, Trev," he confided. "Just out of personal interest, keeping tabs on old friends." Shady Trevor was not a friendly fellow, by any normal standard. Neither was he known for his sentimental nature. Even so, as he fixed Dennis once again with a dark and bloodshot eye, there seemed to be a glimmer of concern.
"I ain't joking, kid," he said.
"I understand. I'll be careful," Dennis said, then quickly moved on. "Let's talk about how I can help you. I believe you're acquainted with Veritaserum?"
"Very useful tipple in my line of business," he confirmed, his scowl melting away.
"I can let you have an ounce in return for the information I need."
3 ounces, eh? That's generous of you."
1 1/4, Dennis countered.
"Done. 2 ounces it is."
"I can go to 1 1/2, but I need some myself. I'm sure you understand."
"Yeah, I understand. And I understand I can go and forget all about this, son."
Trevor grinned.
2 ounces. Unless you got anything else you want to trade."
Dennis sagged. 2 ounces it is.
"Good boy. I'll have one of my best lads check 'em all out, and I'll get back to you here on Thursday, same time."
Dennis smiled. "It's good of you to get back to me personally, Trev, thanks." Trevor lowered his head and glared up at Dennis through bushy eyebrows.
"I'm only doing it so none of my lads know what damn fool idiot is asking these questions. Don't want 'em telling nobody else, other interested parties, if you know what I mean."
"Oh, yeah, I understand," Dennis assured him, then looked around. "What about the people in here now?" Dennis knew nobody would remember him because of his potion, but Trevor knew nothing about that. Dennis was not about to let him in on the secret.
"Don't worry, lad. None of 'em will remember a thing."
"You've got to obliviate them all." Trevor grinned.
"Nah, lad. Gonna tell 'em the drinks are on me."
Dennis shuffled back up towards Diagon Alley. He had achieved what he wanted, and Trevor was going to get back to him quicker than he'd expected. But somehow he felt deflated. His snooping potion had worked, but had been unnecessary. Then there was the Veritaserum he had spent weeks making. 2 ounces left him with only 1/2 ounce. It better be enough. 1/2 ounce would do a few people, but he had no idea how many people he would need to use it on. He couldn't make any more for a while. Veritaserum took a minimum of more than a month, even once he could get all the ingredients. Shady Trevor had better not let him down. And Ginny Potter owed him for this. "How did you get all this, Dennis?" Harry asked. It's called investigating, Harry, Dennis grinned. Harry looked him in the eye, and he was not grinning. He had had days to think of the danger he might be storing up for Dennis. This concern was why he had allowed Ginny to tell the young reporter everything that was going on. Okay, I may have spoken to Shady Trevor, Dennis admitted. But I spent all of yesterday confirming as much as I could. It all seems to check out. Shady Trevor does have the contacts. How can you be sure he hasn't warned them? Harry, he thinks it's for me, Dennis explained. And he probably thinks you're dead, or at least missing. Why wouldn't he betray you? We're friends, said Dennis. Ron's singularly mirthless laugh signalled a scepticism that Harry shared. Okay, I'm useful to him from time to time, Dennis admitted. Ron raised his eyebrows. Illegal potions? Dennis shrugged. Ask me no questions. What do you think, Harry? Ginny asked. She sounded excited. The others around the kitchen table shuffled in their chairs and peered down the table towards Harry, keen to hear his answer. We can't get back up without risking them finding out, said Ron. We'll have to infiltrate them. I have plenty of polyjuice we can use, Dennis said. We? Said Harry. I can't allow you to come along, Dennis. Surely you can see that. Harry, Ginny protested. What I can see is that you wouldn't be going yourself if it wasn't for me, Dennis warned. If I'm not going, neither is my polyjuice. I could confiscate your potions, remember, Harry countered. You could be locked up for possession, at least. Ambrose leaned forwards. He rested his elbows on the table and steepled the fingertips of each hand together. Harry, if you were to march this intensely helpful young man into your office under arrest, while you are missing presumed dead, could that not give the game away somewhat? I think letting Mr. Creevy in on an operation which he has effectively set up would be a less churlish way to show your gratitude. This is a serious operation against dangerous criminals, Harry asserted. I cannot risk civilian lives. I think there is an exceptionally good case for saying that this is Mr. Creevy's operation. That makes you his guest, Ambrose reasoned. This isn't Hogwarts, Harry, Ginny reminded him. Dennis is not underage. It's not your responsibility to wrap everyone else up in cotton wool. Harry glowered. The others watched him. It's going to go well, Lydia said. You'll learn something useful. Only 2 of you will go. Everyone turned in their seats to look at her. Ambrose put down the cheese scone he had just picked up and taken a bite from. I'm sorry, she said. It popped into my head. Oh, and Harry, don't forget what Royal said about delegation. I don't know who Royal is. Lydia was looking confused, even scared. Ambrose reached out and took her hand. Royal was Kingsley's name during the war, said Ron. So I guess it's up to Dennis and me, if only 2 of us go. You? Said Harry. It makes sense, don't you see? Said Ginny. If they find you there, that would ruin everything. And I think I can guess what Kingsley would have said to you about delegating. If they found out it was Ron, Harry said, that would give the game away as well. Okay, you and me, Dennis, said Ginny. Wait, what? Harry spluttered. The 5 of you are missing. Hermione's not here. The 2 of us are reporters, Ginny pointed out. I'm not having you going, Harry began. Ginny silenced him with a look. You need to choose 2 of them to impersonate, said Ron, moving swiftly on. I've thought about that, said Dennis. Baddock and Bloom are easy to get to. Renfield was the other possibility, but he's more likely to play an active part in the meeting. Best to use the other 2. They're idiots. Tomorrow night seems rather soon, Ambrose opined. We're journalists, so we're used to tight deadlines, Ginny said. Don't eat any of the food they offer you, Lydia blurted out. Poisoned? Asked Dennis. No, just disappointing, she explained. Best to give it a miss.